Jackie, thank you so much for the time. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I am great. Welcome to Austin. I understand that you had some travel issues yesterday, though, unfortunately. What happened on your way from the Bronx to Austin, Texas?
When I'm blessed enough to have bookers that say yes, I request to get to every show a day early
Of course.
because I have learned throughout my career that when you miss flights, guess what? The show is like, "Where's Jackie?" And I'm in the airport. So I left the day early because I watched the news of late because the summertime means that every state, Midwest and Florida, underwater potentially. And Texas, tornadoes and stuff. But then when I looked at Austin, nothing over in Austin, but the rest of Texas. So the flight was at 1 o'clock, and it didn't leave until 5, which in terms of delays, for weather reasons, it's not that bad.
It's still like 4 hours, 4 extra hours in the airport, or if you're really unfortunate, 4 extra hours of actually having to sit on the airplane with a bunch of strangers.
You know what? If you're someone who is always either performing or on an airplane or lives with family, the time alone is kind of a blessing. You get a lot of work done when you're in the airport. All the things you on your to-do list suddenly become, you know what? I'm gonna tackle all this now.
Well, yeah, plus people watching at the airport, it is one of the best places on the planet to do so. It truly brings out the worst in far too many people. Like, I don't know if this is necessarily a COVID thing, but I feel like the number of people who think it's completely acceptable to go barefoot either in an airport or on an airplane has gone up way too much over the last 4+ years. Like, I
A lot of
understand you don't have an issue with your barefoot just sticking up in the middle seat of a row,
It's
but I think
definitely rude, but I would tell
people
them. I would
around you
let
are
them
gonna have an
know.
issue with it as well. Yeah.
I'm at the place in my life where I'll get up in my chair and turn around and be like, "Hey, stop kicking my chair. I don't care if your son doing it. He's 3. Tell him, teach him manners. Teach him now. Don't kick seat because there's a human in front of you sitting in it. So
Absolutely. It's hard to blame the kid. A bad kid is the result of bad parenting far too often. So I've got a 9 and 7 year old, and we've been traveling with them since they were babies. And there are a lot of people when they see a baby on an airplane right next to them, they're like, oh, crap, here we go. Just going to deal with the nonstop crying for the next 2+ hours or whatever. But a lot of that comes down to whether the parents are making an effort to keep that from happening. So you bring
yeah,
stuff that distracts the kid, or if they are of an age where they can't really help themselves under the age of 2, let's say, like you're getting up and walking around with them, but the parents who allow their kid to just do whatever he or she wants to, yeah, you may want to punch the kid in the face, but ultimately it's the parents who are the big issue, right?
like my girlfriend Ida Rodriguez, who's a mom. She had a joke a while ago. She was like, "Look, we've all seen babies on an airplane. We're not impressed. Give them some Benadryl so we can all take a nap and get to our destination in peace."
That's right. My wife, whenever we would fly when they were really young, when they were breastfeeding age, she would just, I mean, she would cover up. She's not being belligerent about it, but she's like, this is this baby's version of chewing gum. So that's going to keep their ears from popping, and they're going to be a little bit happier once you actually get to that certain point in the sky, I guess.
Yeah, I feel bad. I actually get really sad when babies start screaming bloody murder as we land because I know the air pop. If the air popping is annoying to us and we're grown ups, imagine a defenseless baby. So when they scream like they're being drowned head first, and I'm like they're in pain. So that really makes me sad. I actually like almost cry when I hear a baby, and I know the reason why they're crying because they're in pain and they're one. So, I do have a lot of empathy for kids. I love babies and kids, so I don't get mad when I see a kid. And when they're crying, I get more mad at people who get mad at the baby. Because I'm like, you guys know that kids cry and they fuss and they're annoying, whether they're annoying for the whole flight or for a couple of minutes. People get irately angry. And I'm like, you were a kid once, or you are a parent. What is wrong with you? So I get more angry at the angry parents or angry passengers because I know that kids are just being kids. Now, if you have a kid who's being a you know what a hole, that's different. But the ones who are just being children and people are getting really angry, that makes me angry.
Yeah, if you have a kid who's being an a-hole, stop that kid from being an a-hole because that makes
Exactly.
you an a-hole as well. But I like what
Yeah.
you're talking about there. It's like a Russian nesting doll of getting upset with kids on airplanes. Some get upset with the kids, some get upset with the parents, and some people like you get upset with the people who are getting upset at those other things.
Yeah, I'm like,
Mindset.
because people, I mean, the best answer when I get asked now, how was your flight? I'm like, I landed. And there could be 1,000 things on that flight that did not go well, but I never complained. Somebody was in the airport complaining about the delay. I'm like, would you like them to get up in the sky with the weather advisories? Because that's the person who should be on Spirit. Because Spirit don't give a damn. Spirit will fly through the tornado. Like, look, we got this. And I'm like, do you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got way too many videos coming out on social media over the last year now, too, where pieces of airplane are just falling off mid sky. So it does
It's
feel
so
like a little bit of a small lottery win every time you go up in the air and then land. We're going to Chicago tomorrow for a week-long vacation. I
nice.
don't really think twice about these things usually, but I'm going to be a little bit nervous if it's one of the new Boeings, hoping that we're not next to a paneling that just decides to come off at 14,000 feet.
I was sitting by in the exit row, right the door, exit door right there. And this another man was sitting across from me at his exit row, and he turned to me and he said, "You know what? These doors aren't they shouldn't be open. So don't be nervous." And I'm like, "I'm not nervous," but he saw in my face, I was like, "Damn it, the exit door." And he's like, "Don't worry. Usually, for the most part, they never get open. It's crazy." So the amount of news with the door being open mid-flight, with the parts falling off, there are too many airplane things in the news to ignore if you're someone who has to be on an airplane. So I do fly now with a little more apprehension, and I've been born on airplanes since I was a baby.
Yeah.
But now, with the global warming and the weather and the turbulence, somebody died on a Singapore flight recently because of turbulence. And they said that that happens primarily when those who are standing. I am not someone who stands. If I need to pee, I go pee. If I need to stretch my legs, I'll just sit there miserable. But the people who get up and they stay up, I'm like, this is not a bus. What are you doing? So flights are different these days. The news you can't ignore. It's all over your phone, where you see the latest whatever happened.
Yeah.
So flying nowadays, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not. I don't like it when I have to be on an airplane every weekend for months. But as of today, I have to be on a flight every weekend until December. So it's
But
part of the job.
well, that's kind of the gig. That is you being successful at stand-up comedy is you traveling pretty much nonstop throughout the year. I think you said on a recent interview that you're home what Tuesday through Wednesday or maybe even Thursday. And other than that, you're having to go to that next gig. And sometimes it's in fun places like Austin, and sometimes it's in some random spot in the middle of nowhere.
Sometimes it's in a random spot where the people who booked me, the comedy club owners, they're so happy to they're so happy to have me. When the people at the bar for the club are like being so grateful to you for coming down there, I'm like, first of all, you're paying me to be here. Second of all, what's wrong with this place why you guys are acting like no one wants to come here? The more remote of an area I go to, the more grateful the club owners are. And I get it because they're like, Jackie, thanks so much for coming to the back of Michigan. And I'm like, once again, you paid me. And second of all, it's a wonderful area. And normally it's an area that has nothing going on. It's a club and a post office and a coffee shop, and that be it.
Pretty much, yeah. And the comedy club model probably has as much to do with selling the frozen food that are back in the kitchen and maybe alcoholic beverages as it is getting people to laugh as well. So they feel appreciation when somebody who has the talents that you do in terms of making people laugh actually come out there, and it's going to boost sales that much more, right?
Yeah, they're very grateful. Military people overall, I'll get the military dudes, but men and women, they're also really grateful. And that's something that I realize. I haven't done a military gig in years, but whenever I do, the ones that I've done have always been Marines and young men, like under 20, under 21. And they come up to me after the show, like, thank you for coming here. And I'm like, first of all, it's Japan. It's beautiful. I can't wait to be here. Second of all, it's a privilege to be able to make in the military laugh because I know you guys are here every day. There's nothing to do but have sex, have babies, get married, and drink if they're not doing whatever they do as military people. So I'm very grateful. Everywhere I go, you don't have to have me. There are a lot of comedians out there. So, in some places, they've never had a black girl before. So I'm glad to help expose. You have no idea how many shows I've done where I've asked a white man in the front row, did you know a black girl was going to be here? And some of them are like, no. And the one, because they're like this. They're like, mm. I'm like, did you know I was gonna be here? They have a website. Did you research? No, you didn't.
You don't
And
need to
one,
give the city. What's the state though? What state are we talking about here? I'm
oh,
assuming
states like
Southeast.
I did this joke in Arkansas, and I said, "Am I the first time you've seen a black girl so close up?" And when they don't respond, that is yes.
Oof.
Some of them look at me and they're like this, the doe-eyed, like innocent, like, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a yes," and they're like, "Hmm." So you know what? If I'm the first exposure they've had, this is close where you can touch me, then let me help teach you.
Yeah, Arkansas, Tennessee, perhaps Alabama, Mississippi. I guess we can probably guess the states or figure out the states that might be prevalent enough that somebody's sitting front of the stage in that situation. Which, by the way, you're clearly a comedy club novice if you're sitting first row at the stage because you're just asking to be picked on at least a little bit, right?
It depends. I'm not mean to the people who come to the show and sit up front. I'll talk to them and make fun of them if they
Yeah.
deserve it. If you deserve it, I will go in, but I'm not a mean comic. Nobody pays their money to be roasted. Not like that. Not unless you deserve it.
No, and that's an important distinction in this day and age where so many comedians are getting popular from social media clips. And that means a lot of crowd work clips because nobody wants to burn their material. And so people who are new to comedy clubs, they try and go to comedy clubs and become a part of the show because that's what they've seen on Instagram, Twitter, or elsewhere. But the reality is, and the rule is that you as an audience member, you shouldn't be saying anything to the comedian unless the comedian addresses you first. That's the etiquette in that situation.
You know what? There's been a learning curve in terms of after COVID and the world opened back up. I've had a lot of audience members let me know that they were comedy club virgins. Never been. Now, some of them you can tell because you're like, you didn't shut the hell up the whole time. So I know you ain't never been outside in an audience before.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of comedy club newbies, and the internet has given a lot of people false license to talk
Yep.
to you while you perform. And I've had many speeches where I'm like, look, guys, I know you've been watching stuff online, but the way I perform, and mind you, I'm very, very good at crowd work. But I
Mhm.
don't do it like, hey, where are you from? I'll wait until they're too chatty or they yell at me. I kind of bring them in my set as opposed to making it crowd work. But I realize now that some audiences, if you go up there and just do your spiel for the whole 45 minutes, they're bored out of their mind. They want to be talked to. They want to be ridiculed. They want to be made fun of in a fun way. So and this is something that I realize that the longer I do this, you have to change with the times. You can't ignore what you don't like. And if I want people to come to my shows, if they want crowd work, I can do it, but you can't get it the whole time. You don't go to a Denzel play at Broadway and be like, hey, Denzel, you were acting your ass off. I did that one time as an example, and they're like, "No, I would never." I'm like, "Well, don't do that to me. I'm not Denzel, but I am a live performer. Shut
Yeah.
up." So
Exactly.
I had to
It's
teach.
it's a performance art, and what you're talking about with making sure the crowd remains engaged, that is maybe an underrated part of that entire process is making sure that
Yeah,
people are still paying attention. Comedians do that with pregnant pauses, let's say, or by getting really emotive on stage, but part of that is by interacting with them directly. I've heard comedians talk about making an effort to at least make it seem like you're making eye contact with everybody in the crowd throughout the show. I don't know if that's your style necessarily, but
it
you're trying
is.
to do that to try and personalize the experience for the person who has paid money to hopefully laugh at you.
I'm very present when I perform. I don't. I'm proud of the fact that when I'm up there, I'm looking at everyone. I notice their outfits, their haircuts, the lack of outfits, the guys that wear the trucker hats that have the sunglasses on top of it. I'm very aware, and I talk to them throughout. So I'm proud of the fact that I'm very present and I'm there when I perform. I'm not just on autopilot. Or if I am on autopilot, you really can't tell because I'm talking to you and having a good time. If I wasn't a comic, I would be a trial attorney because I went to law school. So something that involves debate or public speaking, and I do that too. So that if it wasn't stand up, it would be, hey ladies, you can do it too. I would something that has to do with talking to the public. I realize now is part of my DNA.
Now, Jackie, if I am to believe what I read on the internet, and I realize that anywhere from 5 to 95% of what you read on the internet is complete BS, You have been doing stand up since 2005. Is that an accurate number? About 20 years?
I'm 52. I started when I was 35. So whatever that is.
Okay, so a little bit less than 20 years at this
Yeah,
point.
a little less, yeah.
How often have you come through Austin to perform stand up?
I did Moon Tower last year.
Okay.
Uh, is that it? I think I've only been to Austin once or twice, and once was Moon Tower. This is Creek in the Cave.
Yep.
And I think that's it. It might have been one other, but it wasn't recent. And at the my no twice, two festivals in Austin, I think. But I really like Austin. What is your saying out here? It's for the weird, the quirky. What's the word?
Keep Austin weird. Yeah.
Yes, that's why I love it because people out here are weird, and I like that. I'm very tattooed. You can't tell. I love piercings. I love music, culture, live perform. Austin. I saw a sign, the live performance capital of the world. I love the quirkiness of Austin and of Texas. Texas overall, some of your politics I might have an issue with, but you wouldn't be shocked to see that when you see me. But Texas overall, I love the culture. I love that it's bigger in Texas. The houses, HGTV has ruined your state for everyone because we all think we can move there with $300,000 and get a farm,
That's
three
the
horses, and cattle.
Yeah, that's the Chip and Joanna Gaines effect, unfortunately. And actually, in Waco, you probably can, but a place like Austin, it's not that affordable now.
No, nobody wants to live in Waco. When I remember, I used to watch that show all the time. I forget what the name of it is now, but what is it called? Fixer Upper.
Yeah,
Yes, and the houses they would fix. I mean, of course, beautiful, but they'd be like 100. They'd be like $75,000, and they have to put 300,000 into it to make it normal. And
exactly.
they're still in Waco. I'm like, you guys, Waco does not have a good history in terms of his, from back in the when I was way younger. But forget about that. It's still Waco. Texas, people want to live in the Dallas, the Houston, the Austins, but
Waco just legalized dancing like 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, they're the home of the Branch Davidians and all sorts of crazy, bizarre, disgusting scandals from the Baylor University sports teams. Yeah, Waco is not an ideal destination. I'm sorry to burst that bubble for anybody who's listening right now and thinks that Waco is, I don't know, the next Nashville or Austin or something. It is not that, I assure you.
I get a lot of, I'm following a lot of real estate and rental places on my Instagram, and I get constant posts from Houston apartment places or Houston overall real estate of these amazing downtown gigantic apartments that are like $2,000, $1,600, $3,000. And I'm currently right now looking for a different place to live. I love New York. I'm a New Yorker forever, but I was in Cali for 20 years and I really miss that hot, warm climate.
Yeah.
New York is wonderful, but I really don't like the weather. It's just always a problem. But Texas, I got off the airplane yesterday and that humidity hit me in the face like Florida.
So,
Has it always been this humid?
So it is this humid in Houston most of the time. Austin, it's not typically this humid. We have been going through something in the last month, though, that it feels like hell on earth. I mean, you walk outside and you're drenched in sweat like you just jumped into a swimming pool or something, but it's not typically like this. Now, it does get really hot in
Yeah.
the summertime, a lot hotter than Southern California, but you
Hotter than that?
What's that?
Hotter than Southern Cali?
Well, Southern California is pretty idealistic, right? It's gets into the mid to upper 80s at the hottest.
In the summer. In the summer, I'm used to Southern California being easily 110, 109.
Oh, wow.
In the summer, July, August, and September in Cali. No, I have a lot of memories of guys in the valley also. I remember a lot of 100+ days for weeks.
Okay, yeah, you're right. In the valley, it does get hotter. Yes, it gets hot like that in Austin. It's probably a little bit more humid than Southern California too. But if that's what you like, that means that you get mild and pleasant springs and falls and maybe even winters too. Like that's the trade-off. You get 4 months of oppressive heat, and the rest of the time it feels pretty darn good.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm thinking about getting an apartment in Austin. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have a permanent place of my own right now. I'm in between, my family and then my birth family where I live. And I like Texas, and I feel like I thought about Vegas, but Vegas is just so far,
Yeah,
and getting here from New York, it was not a long flight. It didn't feel like a long one. It was a connector, but it was still less than 4 or 5 hours.
sure. So not only is Austin now a sort of stand-up mecca, but one reason
And that
why
too.
comedians love it is because it's in the center of the country. So it's not going to take you too long to get anywhere versus where you're coming from in New York. I mean, if you've got a West Coast gig, that's a day long commitment just to get there, assuming that there aren't
Yeah.
any travel delays, right?
Well, because I miss the West Coast so much, I love getting gigs going back.
Yeah.
But I have a new agent. That's how a lot of comics get all their gigs, and he's very familiar with the East Coast. So
Mm,
he's been helping me do a lot of touring that is not involving coming way back over to Cali.
yeah.
So and Texas, you're right. It seems like it's in between. So I'm giving serious consideration, not too far from my my older mom, my older aunt, my family and stuff. So, I'm at a place now where I'm like, where do I want to live next? Because I feel like people are too scared to leave where they're born or where they're used to. And I did 20 years in Cali, and I'm not old as hell yet. So where can I live next? Because I don't have that much time left on the planet to keep living in different states for 20 years.
Jackie, it's so important to exit that comfort zone, right? But you're right. It's hard for people to do. I lived in Texas for the first 30 years of my life. And when I finally got out to see the world, not only was I amazed by what I saw, but it helped me to grow as a person too. I went to Oregon first, and then I moved to Chicago where I met my now wife, and we had the first of our two kids. And now we are back here in Texas, which is where I did my growing up. But you had to take that leap as well. And I think we were actually the same age. You were around 30 when you moved from New York to Los Angeles.
Yep.
Was that a scary proposition for you? And just how important was it for you to actually go through that when you finally made a decision to do so?
I think for me, I'm more scared of being stagnant and
Yeah.
not doing anything. I'm unfortunately with my family and people who love me, I'm very good at just packing up my crap and leaving.
Hmm.
And I don't have kids, that may or may not be my choice, but I don't have. So I can
It
pack up and
helped.
go.
It helps with the whole personal freedom thing. Let me go ahead and
Oh yes.
know about that. If you didn't already know that, as much as I love my kids, I am not a free adult anymore.
Not at all. And thank you for being an advocate for those who are childless. So
Yeah.
it means that I can live wherever the hell I want, So I'm going through a time where I'm remembering when I moved, and I was had a boyfriend for like a decade who didn't want to get married, and I was living in New York with my mom and my dad and my sister. I was miserable, and I had a corporate job, so I was on the train every day, no matter what the weather was like. So I just had a life where I didn't really do anything but work and survive, and I wasn't really experiencing anything. I wasn't a comic at all. So when I moved to California, I moved to Cali to go to law school. I eloped with that husband. He's gone. He's passed away. That divorce has been a long time ago. And I moved back to New York now, but now I realize that leaving the first time gives me I have the courage now. I also considering moving to Rotterdam. I can live wherever the hell I want overseas because I'm new to touring internationally now, and I'm seeing other places to live. London is too much like New York, too much rain, too dark, too
Yeah.
gloomy, but very sexy, So I'm learning. I feel like at my age now, I am seeing the world for the first time. I never left America besides seeing my family in Jamaica. And now I'm like, I have license to go and perform anywhere I want. So this job is really giving me the license to live anywhere, as long as they have stages. If there's no comedy and no reputable places to perform, I probably don't want to live there because this I'm going to be a comic till I die.
Okay,
And
so nicer weather, it not being as dreary or cold, especially in the winter time.
yep,
Good comedy scene. Is there anything else that you're having to factor in with where you decide to go next?
not too desolate, not too remote. Like I like remote areas, but I have a car, thank God. So I need to be able to drive to civilization. Like I love the off the grid quiet times because my job is so in your face noisy. But if I live someplace where like there's nothing around, I need malls. And they're not very sexy, but at least you're not away from the world too much. So I need to live someplace that is quiet, where you can leave the noise and come to your quiet house. But the noise can't be an hour away or even a half hour away.
That was a lesson that I learned from moving away from Texas. When I lived in Oregon, like the community was okay, but it was a smaller community. And on top of that, it was an area that had been devastated by two things. One,
Uh,
the opioid epidemic, and the other was teenage pregnancy. So there were more like grandmothers and great grandmothers per capita in this area of Oregon than maybe anywhere else up and down the West Coast. So the opioids and the teen pregnancy isn't exactly a peanut butter and jelly combination to go along with it being far too removed from like a Portland or a San Francisco, let's say, which gives you a little bit more of that big city feel and the culture that comes with it and the good places to eat and the museums and all
mm.
sorts of things that we love about a spot like New York or Austin, you know?
I also wish, is there water in Texas? Are there beaches?
There are beaches, yeah. If you do a beach in Texas, though, you're gonna want to do like South Padre. There are beaches
Okay.
south of Corpus that are pretty cool too, but stay the hell away from Galveston. Galveston is nasty.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
know when I was in Cali, I lived there for so long. I never went to the beach, but I realized having the ability to see some water is important because I know Vegas is nice, but everyone's like, "There's no water in Vegas."
No, it's a
So
desert.
it's desert, but I like dry heat. That desert heat in Vegas is wonderful because you can be outside when it's 105 as long as there's no moisture.
Yeah, well, if you have a little bit of shade, it feels pleasant
It feels
105 in the
nice.
desert. And then it
Yes.
gets cold
So
at night too, so you can actually cool off at the end of those hot days.
you know what? I'm taking a very long time to figure out what I like, but better late than never. And I realize I prefer warmer weather. The New York weather is just ugh.
You mentioned Rotterdam. Rotterdam is UK, correct?
Rotterdam is the Netherlands.
Okay. So the UK,
Yeah.
Netherlands, is there anywhere else in Europe that you're considering?
I liked I really liked London. I just don't like the weather.
Yeah.
It's just so nice out there, and people are they dress cool and they're very what you call it, mannerly, and I love the accent and I love the I wouldn't say food culture because the food out there is but I'm sure they have nice restaurants. But when I've tried to have London food, I'm like, is this the London breakfast I kept hearing about? So it's not the pictures. The pictures are beautiful, but when you order it, you're like, this is nonsense. What is this? So I would live in the Netherlands because I hear it's a peaceful place to live and low crime. Another interesting thing for me, I want a low crime area.
Yeah.
Coming from the Bronx, and even though every city has their un, undesirables or whatever they call it, I need to live someplace where I don't feel scared to go for a walk. And while I live someplace safe now, it's still not safe when you walk in a certain direction. And I want a low crime area. So the Netherlands, whatever is in Rotterdam, I like London. So maybe London with money is different.
Mm.
London, London when you're just trying to get by and have all these goals, but if you have money in abundance, I've noticed London is easier to deal with.
Yeah, because if you've got money in London, you can just fly to the beaches of France whenever you need the sunshine and
Oh
beaches.
yeah. Oh my God, yes. And I have another overseas gig in October and November. So I'm gonna go to Paris for the first time.
Wow.
And everybody keep telling me how crappy Paris is. I'm like, if Paris is nice enough, I'll live there too. I'm a
Sure.
girl. I am a traditional hetero female. Let me Google Gaga over Paris. Everyone keep telling me Paris is crap. It's not safe. You won't like it. It's dirty. You're gonna get robbed. I'm like, first of all, I live in the Bronx, so stop trying to scare me. Second of all, I am a woman, a traditional hetero female. Let me lose my crap over Paris. Please, can you just allow that? Stop killing my dreams.
People are so quick to try and ruin the dreams of others right now. Just be chill. You have your opinion of Paris. Let Jackie form her own opinion of Paris. She may hate it, she
Exactly.
may love it though.
And if I get my purse stolen in Paris, as long as I saw the Eiffel Tower beforehand, take the bag. I'll get a new debit card.
Or you have the most delicious baguette that you've ever eaten in your life afterwards, then the purse means a lot less at that point.
I'm not going to be out there trying to impress with designer stuff. I'm on vacation or working.
Yeah.
So the person not going to be valuable. There's not going to be any cash in there. My phone is going to be somewhere where you can't get it because I keep my phone very close to me. So you know what? Eiffel Tower, big ass baguette, go on ahead.
So you mentioned that you got a bunch of tattoos, which people may be surprised about. What is your favorite tattoo?
When I had my first international tour in October of 2023. Is that how it works? 24? 23, yes. And I got this very popular, let me get it so you guys can see it. I got this very popular, can you see it? Paddington Bear?
Oh yeah, yeah.
No. There it is. There
Yep,
we go.
got him.
Paddington Bear. I got that, and I got this in Rotterdam, this knife through the flower.
Okay.
I got a lot of I'm overseas for me. And as much as I post on Instagram and stuff, I never post the tattoos because I'm like I have to have something for me. So I just keep getting them and getting them. When people see it, and they're like, "Oh, you are tatted." I'm like, "I know, it's a nice little secret." It's private. When people see it, they're like, "Oh, you're a badass." I'm like, a little bit.
Do you have a biggest tattoo regret?
No, I never have. I got, for the first time in my life, I got my husband's name and flowers all over here. Very ghetto, very very hood. But I like to do things that don't really match what people think I am. And while I have my ghetto tendencies and my hood tendencies, I don't, you don't look at me and think I'm gonna have like a skull on my boob as a tattoo, but I might. So no regret. I think tattoos are artistic, personal art form that it's really personal to who's getting them. And people I've had some girlfriends say, "What are you gonna do when you old?" I'm gonna be an old ass tattoo chick. And I've been seeing women who are up there in age now with their tattoos because now life goes on. We're all getting older, and I've seen women. I'm like, hey, she's like 70 with this gigantic tattoo, and she's dressed like a normal person. So we're all getting older, and those who have gotten them to death in the 90s or whatever, we're all getting older and we're wrinkly. That rose may be more like a weeping willow at this point, but you know what? It was my decision.
Yeah, I've wondered about somebody creating tattoos that have sort of do you remember Mad Magazine from back in the day where the back
Yeah, yeah.
of Mad Magazine, you'd fold it and it'd create a different picture? Like we need tattoos to evolve to that point where 20, 30 years from now, the tattoo looks like something completely different, but also still has meaning in your life. That's probably never going to happen, but that's my ultimate vision for.
That's a great invention. That's a great tattoo artist figure out a way for your tattoo to morph into something else as time passes. That's an excellent idea.
Yeah, well, have at it, tattoo artist, because it's not going to be me. All right, last question now, Jackie.
Yes.
I love stand up. I'm assuming you love stand up as well. If so, what do you love about stand up?
Woo! Someone asked me the other day why, and I said it was my last resort because I have a lot of education, a lot of corporate history, but I hated everything. And you don't really understand. You kind of think you're a loser when you don't like anything you try.
Mm.
When you keep getting different jobs and trying different paths, and you're like, this is going to be it. And you get into it, and you're like, this is trash too. So I like comedy because it helped me figure out what I want to do with my life and my time. Because I was really 35 and I had good paying jobs and, you know, these bosses who were like, you're gonna go places. And I in my head, I'm like, I don't want to work here. I don't want to be here 1 minute. So it helped me stop saying that. I haven't said I hate my job in decades. And I said it every morning when I went to work back in the day. So I love stand up because it is finally the job that I can tolerate when I'm frustrated with it, but I always love it. Even when I hate it, when the money is low, when the bookings are slim, when I'm not getting booked on television as a comic or not, when I'm getting a lot of no's, stand up is the one job I cannot be fired from.
Mm.
It doesn't matter who doesn't like me. I'll headline Jose's Rib Shack. I don't give a damn. It doesn't have to be the Improv or these big clubs around the country. Stand up, I can do stand up forever, and no one can fire me. Even if you hate me, I'll get booked at the Chinese restaurant next door. It don't matter. So it's a fireproof job that belongs to me. No one can have it. That's why I love stand up.
Great answer. And for those of you wondering, the next place she's booked at is the Creek in the Cave this weekend. 2 shows on Friday, May 24th, 2 shows Saturday the 25th. Go to creekandcave.com for tickets. You will not be disappointed. She puts on a hell of a show. A lot of great observational humor from her perspective as a woman, who has been in the dating world, as a woman who's been in the corporate world as well. Jackie, this has been a real pleasure getting to know you here a little bit. Thank you so much for the time, and you enjoy yourself in Austin this weekend. Your future home, after all.
Yay! Thank you guys for having me. And for other shows around the country, go to JackieFabulous.com so we can all meet up and party. And thank you so much for having me.
You're watching on YouTube right now. I would greatly appreciate you subscribing to the channel if you have not already, and please do click that thumbs up button. Thanks to Gentleman Jesus for the intro and outro music. Find more of his work at gentlemanjesus.com. Thanks to you for checking us out. For more of the show and to connect on social media, visit booksonpod.com. Talk to you next time on Books on Pod.